Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed.
Hear me?
Greetings and salutations. You are listening to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. My name is Christian Taylor, and I personally want to thank you for clicking on today's episode. Now, for this awesome movie review, we're going to be going back into the horror genre, and you know me, I will never turn down the opportunity to talk about a good horror movie. And what's cool about this one is that this movie is still making its run in theaters, so you can still go see it in theaters after you listen to this recording. And I just want to take a moment to say that I am going to be doing a full review of this movie, and you may be wondering, what movie am I talking about? We're going to be covering the brand new I Know What You Did Last Summer, the third installment in the I Know What You Did Last Summer series. And this movie was very exciting to get to see this in theaters. I have a lot of cool stuff to say about it. I'm going to be doing a good full review of this. So for any of you listening to this, there's going to be a lot of spoilers for this movie as the recording goes on. So I would just say, if you're listening to this, I would stop the recording here, go watch the movie, and then come back and listen to this, because the last thing I want is to ruin the movie for you. I think this movie is really good. It had a lot of good things in it, but there was a lot of negative things I noticed as well that I will get into as we go on with the recording. But I highly recommend you pause this and go see the movie for yourself. Just be warned, there's going to be a lot of spoilers as the recording goes on, so you have been warned. So just want to get that out there. But first, I figured I'd let you guys know what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. So I haven't really been doing much, just been working nonstop. I am working my Walmart job. I'm also working my job as a dishwasher, and I'm still job hunting, trying to find a good paying job in my college degree field that will help me, be able to move out of my parents' house and live on my own. But unfortunately, those plans are still kind of being put on hold. I've been job searching, applying for jobs. I've just been neglected over and over again, but that's just how it goes. My parents have to remind me, just to be patient and that the right job will appear eventually. So I've just been struggling, trying to keep myself positive and happy. There's a lot of nights where I'm not in the best state of mind, but I'm better now. Like, I'm happy. Because yesterday was a really, really good day that I desperately needed. I spent the whole day yesterday with my younger siblings. I took them to our town's festival, and then last night I took them to go see the brand new Superman film in theaters as well. That might be the next episode I'll do, because this new Superman movie, it was really good. And again, I would also like to say, if you guys have not seen the new Superman movie, I highly recommend you go check it out, because this movie was a really good portrayal of Superman. And I think I might cover that movie next on the show. I'm really thinking about it. But yeah, yesterday was a really good day. I spent the whole day with my siblings. I even took them to the coffee shop in our town yesterday morning, so I got to spend the whole day with them. A lot of good memories were made yesterday, and I desperately needed that. So that really helped lift my spirits. So I'm in a really good mood today. So we are going to have ourselves a lot of fun with this episode. So let's get into I Know What You Did Last Summer. So me, my mom, and my little brother went to go watch this at an AMC theater, and overall we all really enjoyed it. Me and my mom are big slasher movie fans, for example. My brother, he's not exactly a big horror fan, but he did really enjoy this movie. So one of my favorite things that Mom and I do sometimes is that a couple years ago we started, every other weekend we'll sit down and look through the streaming services to see if we can find ourselves some old school or low budget slasher films from the 80s or 90s, and we've watched a ton. She first started me on the Scream movies back when I was a late teenager and when I was in high school. Then we ended up going through like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Fright Night, all these, very famous slasher films. I mean, we would watch like Urban Legends, Valentine. There's all these really cool slasher films that I don't think get the full recognition that they deserve. And Urban Legends and Valentine I have covered on the show as well if you want to go check out those recordings. But one of the movies that she showed me was I Know What You Did Last Summer, and its sequel, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and I enjoyed both of them a lot. I know What You Did Last Summer from 1997 might be one of my favorite movies from the 90s. Like it's a late 90s time capsule in the best way. It's a great movie. I rewatched it again not too long ago, and I gotta be honest, that movie I think holds up extremely well. And you can definitely tell with that movie, it was riding off the success of Scream, which came out the previous year in 1996. After Scream came out, like those last 3 years of the 90s, you could tell that a lot of movies coming out were, going off of the fame of that film. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legends, Valentine, all those movies had a lot of Scream aspects from that film, which is not a bad thing at all. Those movies were all very good in their own way. But I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think, was a very successful movie. And I Still Know What You Did Last Summer was in the okay territory for me. I thought that movie was okay, but my gosh, it needed a lot of work. Like, it was like one of the weaker sequels that I've ever seen. It was a strange continuation of the story, but after that, I was really disappointed that we never got a third movie. Well, theoretically we did. So apparently, I haven't seen this movie, but apparently in 2006, there was this low-budget movie, called I Always Know What You Did Last Summer. And apparently, from what I've heard on the internet, this movie had no connection to the previous two films. Nobody from the previous two films makes an appearance in this. It's an entirely new cast, brand new story, has no connection to the previous two films. And I heard it was pretty bad, to say the least. But anyway, I just think that it's really cool. Finally, after over 25 years, we finally get a good third installment with our two, old school characters coming back. Like, that was amazing. Like, when I found out that Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. were coming back for this, that was all I needed. I mean, I was worried that they were just going to be like cameos, but they had a lot of screen time in this movie. And as we'll find out with my notes, is that they had more screen time in this than originally was planned. And the story behind it is very interesting. So let's get into the plot for I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025. So the plot goes like this. When five friends inadvertently cause a deadly car accident, they cover up their involvement and they make a pact to keep it a secret rather than face the consequences. 1 year later, the past comes back to haunt them as they learn someone knows what they did last summer. Stalked by a mysterious killer, they soon seek help of two survivors of the legendary Southport Massacre of 1997. And as you can tell from that brief little description of what happens in this movie, it's basically a repeat of what happened in the first movie, but I'm seeing a lot of people complain about that. But in my opinion, I feel like this was the best approach, kinda, because you gotta remember it's been a quarter of a century since the last movie came out, and you gotta find a way to reintroduce this story to the younger audience. And I feel like the best way to approach this was to introduce a brand new set of characters, because that's what Scream 5 did. I think that was one of the reasons why 5 worked so well, in my opinion, was that it introduced a brand new set of characters while honoring the legacy characters. And I thought the new cast in this movie did a really good job. And I'll name them off here in a minute, but first, let's go through some stuff here. So the movie was released on, let's see here, July 18th, 2025. The director is a lady named Jennifer Caton Robinson, and I had never heard of her before. My first time seeing any of her work was this picture. So the rating for this movie is R, obviously, and This movie's runtime is about an hour and 51 minutes, and it was distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. Now, for the cast for this movie, I will be naming off the 7 main cast members for this movie that we see on the movie poster. And I'll name them off, and then right after, I'm going to name the character that they played. So up first, we have Madeline Klein as Donica Richards. We have Chase Sway Wonders as Ava Brooks. We have Joanne Howard King as Milo Griffin. Tyreek Withers as Teddy Spencer. Sarah Pigeon as Stevie Ward. Freddie Prinze Jr. reprising his role as Ray Bronson, and Jennifer Love Hewitt reprising her role as Julie James. And that is our 7 main cast members for this movie. And I thought, like I said, I love the cast in this movie. I really do. I thought all the actors in this, performance-wise, I think everybody knocked it out of the ballpark in this one. I mean, I don't think there was ever like any... I did not notice any bad performances in this movie. And high five to everybody in this. Every actor in this did a really good job. Now, we're going to get into some notes that I found here about how this movie came to be. So, plans for a 4th film in the franchise started back in 2014 when Mike Flanagan and Jeff Howard signed on to write a reboot with no connection to the previous installments. However, this version was ultimately fell through. Following the cancellation of the 2021 television series adaptation project was relaunched when Robinson pitched her version to Sony Pictures. The film entered early development in February of 2023 with producer Neil H. Mortez returning. Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt were confirmed to be returning in 2024, with the new cast members joining throughout the year. Filming took place between October 2024 and March 2025 in New South Wales and Los Angeles. I Know What You Did Last Summer premiered at the United Theater on Broadway in Los Angeles on July 14, 2025, and was theatrically released by Sony Pictures Releasing in the United States on July 18th and simultaneously worldwide on the same date. The film received mixed reviews from critics and has grossed a total of $27.8 million worldwide so far. And it seems that it's starting off pretty decent with its money, and I hope this movie does end up being successful. I really do. I think a lot of love and support was put into this picture, and I think the people who made this are really big, genuine fans of the original first 2 films. So I hope this movie does do well. I think it deserves it. But anyway, the next thing we're going to do here, so I have a series of notes here about stuff that I liked about this movie and what I disliked, and I'm going to go through what I liked first. And the first thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was that it does such an amazing job of paying homage to the previous 2 films. Like, if you pay attention to the dialogue in this movie, for example, there's a lot of callbacks to the original 2 films. And it's kind of like, you know, done in a way where it's kind of like, not like up front in your face, like, you'll notice with a lot of sequels, it relies purely on nostalgia. Like, Hollywood's kind of like entered this phase now where they keep bringing back these old franchises because, let's face it, they're running out of ideas. I think that that's extremely obvious. And they keep bringing back franchises, and they keep, like, having to remind the audiences of what came before because they have nothing new and original to offer. They're just kind of like talking about, hey, remember what came before? We're here, we're going to show it again. You know, like, relying on nostalgia has kind of been a problem now, I would say, for the last, like, decade. Because from 2015 to now, we've just been seeing franchise after franchise being brought back. But I like in this movie's case, it wasn't really relying too much on nostalgia, I don't think, for this movie. But I think he did a really good job honoring the first 2 films and really respecting them. that's what I think what's important here is how this movie didn't like talk bad about the previous two films. It honored them. It honored, Ray and Julie and their story, and they brought them back, gave them a bunch of screen time, and like I said, the key word here is that this movie honored and respected the first two films, and that's important because a lot of legacy sequels now tend to do this thing where they just trash the predecessors, and that's ridiculous. You shouldn't do that. Now, the second thing that I liked was the new cast that they introduced in this movie. But I have some other notes about it that I'll get into later. But I think overall, I think this cast was pretty good. I mean, let's face it, no cast is going to beat the original lineup from the original I Know What You Did Last Summer. Our four main characters in that movie I thought were extremely well written. And you wanted the four of them to survive, So when one of them was killed, it was really a gut punch, Like this cast was nowhere near as good as the original movies, but still, I thought they had a lot of chemistry, and I liked them a lot. I think some of them could have been written better, but we'll get into that later. But I was really rooting for them, to figure out like what was going on, and I really cared for a lot of them. And the third thing that I liked about this was the fact that this movie did such an amazing job of handling, Ray and Julie's characters for the most part. There were some things that they did that I didn't agree with, which, like I said, I'll get into with the dislike list. But I thought that it was really cool how, Ray and Julie had a lot of screen time in this, and unfortunately, there was only one scene with them together. I found that to be very disappointing, but still, that one scene with them talking together, I thought that was really cool. Just getting to see them on screen together was a very cool opportunity, and just seeing them back was really good. But the scary parts of this movie, I actually really enjoyed. Like, this movie did such an amazing job of capturing that mystery, spooky aspect of the original film, and I think they did a really good job, just of hiding. Okay, who is the killer in the friend group here? Like who's doing this? And I thought the mystery was kept secret pretty well. And I mean, the chase sequences in this I thought were really well done too. I mean, they brought back a lot of like old school like film mechanics with this one, and I mean. And the killer gets to use a couple of new devices to torture his victims in this. Like, one of the main girls in this story, she's getting, like, married, and there's this really gruesome scene where her fiancé is in their rich house in the kitchen, and the whole kitchen area is surrounded by see-through glass, and, the killer uses a spear gun and shoots through the window and hits him in the shoulder. Then he gets a second shot in the gut, and these spears are attached to a line to the gun, and the killer drags them back and drags the victim back with the string and then kills him. Like, we didn't see the killer use anything like that in the first two films. It was strictly just the fish hook knife. But I thought that was really cool how, they somehow found a way to make the killer even more scary than he was in the first two movies. I didn't think that was possible, but they found a way. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is we have a couple of cameos in this movie, and there was one in particular that really, really surprised me. Now, this is a spoiler for the movie. So Sarah Michelle Gellar makes an appearance in this movie and reprising her role as Helen Shivers, and that really surprised me. Now, I'm sure for any of you who have seen the original film, wait, how is she back? She was killed off in the first film. Well, they did a really creative thing here. So, like, her character still plays a role, like, in the story. Like, there's this really brilliant scene where two of our new cast members, Teddy and Donica, visit Helen's grave, And there's a picture of her in front of the grave, and I thought it was really sweet that Donica leaned down in front of the grave and said that she was sorry for what happened to Helen. And then her and Teddy walk away to go see if they can find more information about who they potentially got killed at the beginning of the movie. And later on in the movie, Donica is the blonde girl who's one of the main characters in this, and she's the one who's set to get married, from what I was talking about earlier when her fiance was killed off. Anyway, later on in the movie, Donica and our second lead girl, Ava, they are locked up in the town jail because the mayor does not want them intervening with this situation any longer, because he's trying to keep this whole spree of killings under wraps from the public, because he doesn't want the town's image to be ruined. So he has Donica and Ava locked up in jail, and then we cut to them in the interrogation room. They're locked in, and Donica is taking a nap at one of the desks, and she enters this dream where she's in, the room where Helen won her crown at the beginning of the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, and she turns around, and it's Sarah Michelle Gellar reprising the role of Helen, and it looks like they did some de-aging effects to her to make her look younger. I don't know if they did, but she looked younger, in my opinion, because obviously they had to do that, because, it's been 27 years since the original film came out, so Sarah's aged a lot since then, so I'm sure they had to do some de-aging to make her look how she would have looked, back in the late 90s. But anyway, that whole dream sequence was very creepy, to say the least. Helen is dressed up how she would have looked at the beginning of the movie. She has her dress on with her crown, and she's just talking down to Donica's character, just telling her that it's your fault that you're in this situation, and you got your friends killed, and now it's your turn to die. And then Helen pulls out a hook and she kills Donica, and then Donica wakes up. Like, that whole sequence was absolutely insane, but I thought that was a very creative way to bring Helen back into the story. That caught me completely by surprise. I had no idea that Sarah was going to make an appearance in this, and that was a genuine, a genuine surprise on my part. I couldn't believe it, but that was very, very, very cool. And the second cameo in this movie was actress Brandy Norwood making an appearance, because she appears in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, the sequel. And in the sequel, she plays a character named Carla, who is Julie's new best friend. And she survived the second movie, and there is an after credits scene. So if you sit through the credits of I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025, there is a after credits scene where Julie comes to visit Carla at her house, and Julie got a note from someone with a picture of them from the second film, and it has a red X around Carla's face, and she's like, alright, who are we going after this time? And Julie's like, I hope you would say that. Then it just cuts to black. So it's already teasing a potential fourth installment if this movie does well, which I hope it does. But I thought that was very, very nice that she made an appearance in this movie. Again, more honoring of what came before. Now, going back to something I had mentioned earlier, but this movie has a big mystery in this one about who's doing this, because this movie, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, it doesn't really follow the Scream formula, directly, because the killer is not, amongst the friend group, not necessarily, but this one, I think, is more Scream-esque than the previous two I Know What You Did Last Summers. For the first time in the franchise, the killer is in the friend group. That wasn't the case in the first two movies. So amongst the 5 friends, one of them is the killer. And the plot twist, which I'll get into later, was very shocking, to say the least. And this movie did really a good job of keeping the mystery. Like there was a really good scene that really helps, set the mood of like who is doing this, who is dressing up in this fisherman outfit and killing these innocent people. Like what is going on here? I genuinely believe that this movie did a really good job of hiding who the killer was for this one. Because if you remember, if you have listened to my Scream 5 and Scream 6 reviews, a lot of the fans said for those films that those movies didn't do a really good job of hiding who the killers were. A lot of longtime Scream fans were saying was that the killers were way too obvious, but I don't know where they're getting that from. I mean, in my case, I was genuinely shocked when it was revealed who the killers were in those films. I didn't think it was that obvious, to tell you the truth. But nonetheless, in this movie, I think they genuinely did a good job of hiding who the killer is. And I think if you go see this movie, you are genuinely going to be shocked on who it is, But anyway, I genuinely believe the mystery was handled extremely well. And the last thing I'll say on things that I liked was that I enjoyed the ending of this movie. I thought it was, really positive how two friends, I'll just say this, okay? Two friends survive out of the five member group to make it. And I really liked the positive ending it had, and I liked that after credits scene that's setting up a potential next installment in the series. I thought that was very good too. So now we are going to be getting into my dislikes, and there's more of them. So I listed off for you about 7 things I liked about this movie, and I have about 10 things I disliked about this, or things that I felt could have been done better. Now, the first thing I'm going to get into, this is the biggest thing about this movie, the plot twist on who you find out who the killers are, and, I have, as I'm recording this, I have very mixed feelings about the plot twist in this movie. And what is it, you may ask? It is revealed that Sarah Pidgeon's character, Stevie Ward, and Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character, Ray Bronson, are the killers. Now, I have very mixed feelings about Ray being the killer in this one. I mean, he's a legacy character, He's been by, Julie's side the previous 2 films and went above and beyond to protect her and make sure that she was safe. And I just don't know how I feel right now about Ray being, one of the main killers in this one. It was genuinely a shock. I remember in the theater, I'm just thinking to myself, is this really happening? Is this a dream? Like, they're really doing this? I mean, you gotta remember, I don't think that this has ever been done before in any horror franchise. I mean, the best example that I could think of, it's like, imagine, for example, in Scream 3, that we find out that Dewey was the killer. Or maybe he was one of the killers working with Sidney's brother. Like, imagine if Wes had done that in the 3rd film where Dewey, the guy who has protected Sidney Prescott and Gale Weathers over and over again. Then you find out in the 3rd film that he was like a secret, Ghostface killer. Imagine if that's how the 3rd film went. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of fans would have had a lot of questions about that one. But I gotta be honest, it was a very risky move. I mean, I gotta hand it though. I mean, to the crew and the director, I mean, that's a very risky move, to do that with a legacy character. So, I mean, I gotta applaud them for taking a risk like that. But the problem I have is that, does this fit Ray's character? I mean, I see mixed reactions in the community about this. Some people are saying that, he was kind of like a red herring in the previous 2 films. He always gave off the vibe that he wasn't like 100% trustworthy. Then the other side of the fence, people are saying that this whole thing just feels dumb and that this doesn't fit Ray's character at all. And I'm over here in the middle, like, I'm not sure what to believe. On the one hand, I think it was a very interesting idea, but for me, part of me's wondering, does this fit his character? And part of me's thinking no. I mean, he had a lot of flaws, but I think he was a genuine good guy who wanted to do the right thing, you know? I mean, he saved Julie's life twice. And so, and there's more things about this story that I'll get into later that I guess played a role in him turning, but Ray dies at the end of the movie. Ava shoots him in the chest with that spear gun that he was using on his victims, and during the final battle at the end of the movie, Julie comes back to help Ava, and Ray does his evil monologue, explaining to Julie why he's doing this, and he says that his life is in shambles, and he's still being haunted by what happened to him in the previous two films. He feels that him and his history with Julie is just being erased, by the town because they're trying to move on from what happened, and that upset Ray to the point where he was willing to help, Sarah Pigeon's character, Stevie, because you find out, so at the beginning of the movie, what happens is the five friends go out for one last, ride together in their car before they all go their separate ways, because I believe they've either graduated from high school or college, I'm not sure, but they're all getting ready to go their separate ways. So they go on one last ride. They're driving out the same road our main four cast members in the first movie did, and they stop. They park their car on the side of the road. They're walking around, looking over the cliff, looking out the ocean, and Teddy gets extremely high and starts, walking in the middle of the road where cars are coming, and he's playing this game of chicken or whatever, and one of the friends has to pull him away before a truck drives by, and the driver loses control and drives over the cliff. And they try to pull him out of the truck before it goes over the cliff, but they fail, and the truck goes over the cliff and right into the ocean. And they're all like, all right, one of them calls the authorities, and they all just drive away. And they make a vow to never talk about what happened that night ever again. Then, during the plot twist at the end of the movie, Steve reveals that the guy they got killed that night was her boyfriend, and that you find out Ray has been taking care of her after something happened to her dad, and Ray is running a bar in the town, and Stevie was helping him. And then, Ray was angry that the town was trying to erase the trauma of what him and Julie went through in the previous two films. And that made him upset, and he also wanted to help Stevie take care of her friends for what they did to her boyfriend, because he's like, she's been through enough, So they were accomplices in this whole scheme, and again, I just don't know how I feel about, doing that to Ray's character. And I was really, really sad they killed him off in this, because I think Ray's a very important character. I don't think you can do I Know What You Did Last Summer without him being there. I mean, the chemistry between Ray and Julie was one of the most important things of the original movie. Without him, I just don't think the story's going to work very well. But I mean, granted, they killed off Dewey in Scream 5, and I really enjoyed Scream 6. So, and that one didn't even have Sidney in it. So I mean, I'm going to keep an open mind. If they do end up making another movie, I'm going to keep a very positive and very open perspective. But as of right now, I just have mixed feelings about Ray being the killer and then them killing him off at the end of the movie. I don't know how I feel about that as of right now. It's a 50-50. One part of me sees why they did this. The other part of me is kind of was it necessary? Now, another thing about this movie I think could have been done a lot better was the writing of the main cast. I gotta be honest. Out of the five friends in this movie, there was only 2 or 3 of them I genuinely cared about. Ava, Donica, and Milo. They were the only 3 I genuinely cared about. I wasn't really interested in, Stevie and Teddy's characters very much. I wasn't really interested in them very much. And Stevie revealed to be one of the killers. That was a genuine shock, I guess. She was that sweet, innocent girl that just wanted to do the right thing. So the reveal, I thought, was a little shocking. But I just didn't really care about her character very much. I don't know. Maybe it's just because Stevie didn't get a whole lot of screen time, but Teddy's character was a really big fan of. The guy was kind of a jerk throughout most of the film, so when he died, I was not really that sad for him, to say the least, but I just wasn't a fan of their characters very much. I feel like they could have been written better. Like, I wanted to care about all 5 of them, but I guess we just didn't get enough screen time of the 5 of them together to really feel a connection. I feel like there should have been more screen time dedicated to them about their friendship and how long they've been friends. You know, if they were together just a little longer, I feel like that would have helped me care about them more. But I feel like the 5 of them, we just didn't get enough screen time of all of them together, you know. But maybe I need to see it a second time. Maybe I'll like it more. But I feel like we needed more screen time of them together before the accident happened. But that was just a little small pet peeve. Now, like I said, another thing, like, when I was talking about things that I liked the after credits scene, I really do. But the thing is, that what's annoying me right now, it's like, I'm tired of, like, everybody's always wanting to set up the next sequel before, how about we make a good movie first? You know what I mean? Like, this movie was great, but there was a lot of points in this movie where you can get the vibe, okay, they're just trying to set things up for another one. I mean, you have to have the mindset of make a good movie first and then worry about its next one. You know, it's like when they did Raiders, like, for example, Spielberg and George were, if you watch, like, the documentary on the making of the original 3 Indiana Jones films, Steven and George decided on, okay, we'll do 3 of them, but if Raiders had not done well, we wouldn't have gotten, you know, Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. Like, when they did Raiders, I don't think there was ever a point that they were thinking about, you know, Temple of Doom or anything yet, you know. They were focused on, okay, let's make the first movie first, then we'll worry about the sequels later, you know. I think the idea of making your movie with already having ideas for a sequel, that's not a good idea. Like, you gotta make a good movie first, and if it does well, okay, now start thinking about the sequel. So all these movies that are coming out now, they're always worried about setting up the next one. It's like, make this one good first. Like, we all know what happened with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I mean, that movie was so, like, the whole point of that movie was to set up all these spin-offs and sequels that we never got to see because the movie bombed. I mean, the story was a complete mess at certain moments because they forgot to make a good Spider-Man movie first and then worry about sequels afterwards. Like, you gotta make a good movie first. Like, with the original Tobey Maguire trilogy, I mean, after the first film came out and it did extremely well, Sam Raimi started working on the sequel. Like, you have to make a good movie first and stop worrying so much about, okay, we gotta set things up for the next films. Like, no, wait, just wait. See how this one does first and then worry about a sequel. And another thing that annoyed me about this movie is that Julie wasn't really given much to do in this film. I mean, we see her a bit in this, but she's not really given much to do. When we first see her, you know, Ava goes to visit her at the school where she works, and then you find out, you know, like, what she's been up to, and, like, she refuses, you know, to go back to that town and help the new cast, but she gives Ava some advice on what she thinks Ava should do. And then we see her again later on where Ray goes to pay her a visit, and then we see her again at the end of the movie where she comes back to town to help, but she doesn't do anything. She walks in through the front door, she knows Ray's the killer. They have, you know, Ray gives her the long, you know, villain monologue on why he's doing this, and then Ava kills him, and that's it. I mean, I was really, really hoping for this movie that we'd get at least, like, one chase sequence with Julie. That would have been cool, you know? I just wish they could have gave her more to do in this one. I really would have enjoyed a good chase scene with her, or a battle with the killer, you know? I feel like the reveal would have been better if, like, she's fighting, you know, the fisherman, then she pulls the mask off and reveals to be Ray, and then see her genuinely shocked, you know, that, Ray? Why are you doing this? You know, like, that would have been better, I feel like, if the final battle had been between, you know, Ray and Julie. and then Ava comes in to lend Julie a hand. I think that would have been better. But Julie just walks in, confronts Ray, Ray dies, and then that's it. And then we don't see... Then Julie just leaves town. Ava gets a letter from her at the end, and Julie just writes, good luck, I'm always here if you need me. But she just kind of, leaves. She doesn't even, stick around to chat with Ava or Donica. She just leaves, I just feel like they just did not give her enough to do in this film. If we could have gotten just one chase scene, just one, you have the main girl back from the first two. Give her something to do. But anyway, I guess it wasn't a big deal. I just wish we could have gotten more. I just wish you could have gotten just one chase or one fight sequence. Now, another thing about this story that I feel like could need a little more better writing, the plot I found to be a little confusing in some places, finding out that Stevie's boyfriend was the one who died that night, that whole plot line has me very confused. And it's okay, Stevie, if he was your boyfriend, why did you not recognize the truck? You dated him for what I seem was a while. You dated him for a while, right? How would you not recognize, wait a minute, that's my boyfriend's truck? How did you not recognize that, And this whole thing about her wanting to kill all of them because they didn't do the right thing that night, I don't know. It didn't feel like enough motivation for her wanting to do this. I feel like kind of a drastic, push. And going back to Ray being an accomplice, that whole thing, I just don't know how I feel about that. And the problem that I have with the story itself is just that I feel like there's not enough motivation for these characters to be doing these things. In the first two films, Ray didn't really seem the care that much about the killer. He just wanted a normal life with Julie. The second film ends with them happy that it's over, and they buy their new house, ready to live their normal lives, and they're happy. Ray's not wait, what if they forget? What if everybody just forgets that everything we've went through? He doesn't care. He just wants to move on. So this whole motivation of him being the killer because he's angry that their history is being forgotten about and erased, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. That's your motivation? Really? It just seems like there should have been more backstory to why he did this. Maybe you could have added, his life's kind of in shambles. Him and Julie are separated. They hate each other. Maybe that could have played a part. It just seems that not enough motivation was put into why Stevie and Ray are killing these people. It just doesn't seem like enough to me. Now, a small little pet peeve I had with this movie was that there's quite a few scenes where the story just gets extremely boring. There are several scenes where our main cast is kind of sitting around, wandering around, talking about stuff, and I don't know. Maybe if the dialogue could have been written a little better, it wouldn't feel so boring. But there were a few parts in this movie. I'm just kind of can something happen, please? I'd rather be watching paint dry at this point. They're just kind of sitting around, talking about stuff, and it just seems so boring. Do something, But thankfully, it only happened a couple of times. Now, there's another thing in this movie that really annoyed me, and that's Ray and Julie being separated. Now, guys, I have got to be honest with you. I am sick of this trope that every Legacy sequel does now, where it's they have to ruin things that the characters earned in their previous, movies, and it makes me so mad. Where do we start? Force Awakens. Han Solo, right? He loses his rank in the Rebel Alliance. Him and Leia separate, and his son turns to the dark side, and his best friend Luke runs off. Han loses everything in the time frame between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. He loses everything, and then he dies at the end of it. looking back on it, that was a really dumb move. I don't know why Disney did that. And they did the same thing with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, where, you know, Luke loses everything. All of his Padawans get killed. He leaves Han and Leia behind. He makes he makes Ben Solo turn to the dark side and become Kylo Ren. They just keep doing the same thing, and then Leia loses everything in Rise of Skywalker. I mean, every main character from the OG trilogy loses everything. And you want to know how the new trilogy ends? Chewie loses all of his friends. Han, Luke, Leia, they're all dead. Like, he loses all of his friends. I mean, like, what the heck, man? And then, you know, like, Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, what do they do? Indy has nothing. Him and Marion are separated. Mutt was killed in Vietnam, and he lives in a crappy apartment in New York City. His nice big house that he had in the previous films is gone. He's not working at the college in Connecticut anymore. Like, they stripped him of everything. He's a nobody. Nobody respects him. His students are horrible to him. And it's just like, why does this keep happening? It's like today's modern writers, okay, let's just strip the legacy characters of everything they earned in their previous films. They keep doing that over and over again. It's like, why? Why do you guys keep doing this? I mean, Scream 5, what did they do? I mean, Dewey and Gale are separated. Dewey is forced to retire from being a cop, and he lives in a crappy trailer in the middle of nowhere in the outskirts of town, you know, of Woodsboro. And it's just like, why do they keep doing this to legacy characters? It's so stupid. Why can't you just honor them, respect them? Why do you have to take everything away from them that they earned? I mean, Julie and Rey deserve to be happy. After everything they went through in the previous films, they deserve to have the married life and have a happily ever after. Like, why did they have to be separated? I mean, they had one scene together in this movie. Well, two, actually. But anyway, at the halfway point in the film, you know, Rey comes to her house to visit her, to basically confront her and to tell her, like, what the heck were you thinking, telling Ava and her friends to go look to see who the killer is? I mean, that was silly. Yeah, telling them that from the comfort of your own house. You know, he said something to that. And they just sit there and argue. And then, you know, Julie tells them, you know, like, I know what it's like to, you know, to be married to somebody who I knew I couldn't trust. And she's saying these harmful, mean things to Rey, just treating him like absolute crap, you know, and Rey has nothing nice to say about her either. You know, when the new cast finds out that he was married to Julie, he's like, yeah, I was, unfortunately. I mean, these two hate each other, and this movie does not tell us why they separated or why they hate each other so much. We're just supposed to be like, oh, they're separated. Anyway, it's like, no, you gotta give us an answer. Why are they separated? They genuinely loved each other in the first two movies. Like, why do they have to be divorced and at odds with one another? Like, they want nothing to do with one another. It's set crystal clear they hate each other, and I'm just like, why? Why? I mean, I don't understand the reason. Like, are legacy characters not allowed to be happy when their next sequel shows up? Every legacy sequel does this almost, where they don't honor the original characters, and it's ridiculous. This trend needs to stop. I am sick and tired of it. Like, I knew they were gonna do something like that. Every legacy sequel does this. It's ridiculous. I am over it. To say the least. Like, that was just a small little rant I had to do. But yeah, them being divorced and hating each other, I did not like that at all. They should have been happily married, maybe even have kids or something. They deserved a happily ever after, and of course they had to be stripped of that. And one last thing about this is that going into this movie, my prediction was that they were going to bring back the original character, the original killer, from the first two movies, and they didn't. Like, this movie has callbacks to the second film, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, but it doesn't really address that movie's ending. I mean, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, that movie ends on a cliffhanger where the killer is in Julie and Ray's house. Like, Julie sees muddy footprints on the ground. She walks into one of the rooms and she gets attacked, and then it just cuts to credits. We have no idea what happened to her after that. Like, this movie pretends like the ending of that film didn't happen, and that kind of like ruins the continuity a little bit. I still Know What You Did Last Summer addresses the main killer is obviously not dead, but this movie doesn't address that at all. I was really hoping that this one was going to wrap the story up. Okay, we're finally getting a third film. I was thinking maybe they would bring back the main guy as like a plot twist. I'm still alive. I would have liked that. I really did. And maybe he like brainwashed and manipulated Stevie into helping him go on this revenge spree. See, they did to you what they did to me. Let's team up and go after him. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been cool. And then Julie and Ray could have helped our new group out. And then they could have killed them once and for all. They go their separate ways, and that's it. Story over. I wish that was what happened in this movie. Not this whole thing of, Ray being a killer, like, I really do believe that they should have brought back actor Mus Watson to reprise his role as Ben Willis, who he was the main killer in the original first two movies, and I think it would have made for an excellent plot twist because the second film makes it look like that Julie killed him at the end of it, but that now a lot of people argue that the ending scene in the second film was a dream, but I don't buy it. I think that it was real, and I just wish this movie didn't just outright ignore the last film's ending because it kind of just ruins the continuity a little bit. I mean, the movie should have had a plot twist that featured, Ben Willis coming back. That would have been cool. I think that would have been a very cool way to wrap the story up. And to be honest, I'm kind of annoyed that they're setting up to do another one. I was really hoping that this movie was going to wrap the story up and call it good, I think it's really good for a story to have 3 movies and then call it quits. Not everything needs to be a franchise. I think that's another lesson that Hollywood needs to learn. Now, I love Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I think that it was a really good 4th installment, but now that I'm older, I understand why a lot of the fans were upset it was even made in the first place because, Last Crusade, it did give Indy a really good send-off. There was really no reason to make another one. I'm glad they did, but Last Crusade's ending with Indy, his dad, Marcus, and Sala riding off into the sunset, that was a good way to close out the story. We had all 3 movies were amazing, and Last Crusade topped Raiders, in my opinion, and I think that says something when the third movie somehow tops the original. That doesn't happen. That's like almost a never thing. That almost never happens. So I can understand why a lot of the fans were upset that we got a 4th one. Like, why do we need it? The third film's ending was perfect, Another example, Pirates of the Caribbean. You have Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, and At World's End. It should have stopped right then and there. That trilogy was great. The ending to At World's End, it was really sad and heartbreaking, but it fit the theme. And, the ending was perfect. It was kind of sad, but I thought it fit the theme of the story perfectly, And, the 4th, Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales, there's no reason for those 2 to even exist. Stranger Tides, I did not like it at all. And I heard Dead Men Tell No Tales, I heard that one was not that good either. There's no reason for it to exist. He's got to be 1, 2, 3, done. Trilogy, boom, done. And, the sequel Star Wars trilogy, I mean, I thought it was okay, but again, I can understand why a lot of the fan base is like, why are we getting a new trilogy? There's no reason for it. Return of the Jedi wrapped the story up perfectly. There's now balance to the Force. Why do we need an episode 7, 8, and 9? Like, what are they going to do? The story's over. So, again, I understand. So, after giving those examples, I was just really hoping that this third movie was going to finally give us closure on this story and then wrap it up. I don't think we need another one. So it's like what are they going to do with the fourth one? I mean, like, Rey's gone. I mean, Julie's the only main character left. I don't think we're going to see our new characters, Donica and Ava. I mean, they have no story left to tell. I mean, their story kind of feels like it's done. So it's like, why are we getting another one? I just don't know how I feel about that right now, but nonetheless, I always look to the positive side of things. You guys know this. I still think it was extremely cool getting to see I Know What You Did last summer, getting to see a third one finally with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt coming back. I thought that it was a very cool thing to witness, even though it didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to. It was still a fun experience. It's a very awesome memory that I will hold very dear. It was cool getting to see this with my mom and brother. Now, the last thing I'll cover here is I have some reactions from people who typed articles about their experiences watching this movie, and I'll read some of them for you. So the first one we have here is from Allison Foreman of IndieWire, gave the film a B+, and wrote that it's a lean, mean serial killer flick. Entertainment Weekly's Jordan Hoffman gave the film a B- and wrote, clever moments and sensational performance from Madeline Klein keep the movie mostly alive. Brian Talarico of RobertEbert.com gave it 1 out of 4 stars and wrote the overall shallowness of I Know What You Did last summer would be fine if it were just better made. In particular, the editing by Saria Hatter is just off rhythm. It's like a car in the wrong gear going in the right direction, but something's wrong with the speed. The kill scenes are particularly inconsistent as the first couple strike a tone of gory fun, but the back half of the film plays out like more serious fare. The Hollywood Reporter's Frank Scheck noted that while Robertson and Lansky clearly show affection for the franchise, they ultimately failed to inject fresh energy into the remains of creativity, exhausted series that perhaps should have stayed buried. However, the outlet praised the return of Hewitt and Prinze Jr., highlighting their strong performances as vital links to the original films and for bringing much-needed gravities to the story. Stevie Pawlinski gave the film 1.5 out of 4 stars, saying, I Know What You Did last summer fits right in with this series in terms of being another lousy and derivative slasher. Slinging out Freddie Prinze Jr.'s performance is terrible, and remarking he lumbers around as if he's not used to playing a dramatic role because he isn't. And that was what some of the reviewers have to say. I disagree with them on some things, but some of them had some comments, about the story and the movie's rhythm of its runtime, and I agree, some of the pacing could have been done better, and I feel some of the kill scenes maybe could have been done a little better as well, so I disagree and agree with all these reviewers on some of the things they had to say, but that is going to wrap my covering of I Know What You Did last summer 2025. I know I had a lot more negative things to say about it than good. I mean, I still enjoyed the movie overall. There's just a list of things that I wish they could have done differently. But nonetheless, this is a very cool experience getting to see this in theaters, and I'm very happy I got to see this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for listening to this one. If you want to follow me, I have a Tales of Music and Film fan page on Facebook that you can find. And I do have a Instagram and a Twitter page that you can follow me on, whenever I do any posts on those. You can find my Instagram, Christian Taylor, and let's see here on my X profile. It's just Christian Taylor again, at Chris37733732. You'll find my profile. I post every once in a while whenever I talk about life stuff, or if I ever promote any new topics coming out soon, just stuff like that. So yeah, you can find my Facebook fan page, my Instagram account, and my X page. So feel free to follow me on those, and enjoy the rest of your day, and just stay safe out there, and please drink a lot of water whenever you can, because the heat is getting really bad. Over here in Illinois, we are experiencing heat waves like we haven't seen in a very long time. So whenever you guys get a chance, keep yourself hydrated. It is very, very important. Keep drinking water, and that is your health tip for today. But until next time, my name is Christian Taylor, and you are listening to the Tales of Music and Film.